And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single day celebrates big time the people who are making this such an amazing place to live, work, and play. Hey, we've got a great show today. We're going to be talking with Mayor FoFo Gilich here in just a second. But I want to share a couple of quotes with you, and I'll tell you who these are by in just a second. But here's the first one. When you have a good time, there is no time. When you have a good time, there is no time. You know, think about it for a second. When you go for a walk on the beach, it's almost like time kind of freezes in that moment. Think about it. You're not really thinking about time when you're doing that. I've often said that when I'm in the outdoors, whether I'm with family or friends or just by myself, it feels like time kind of freezes in that moment. And when you're there, again, you're not thinking about time. You're just thinking about sort of being one with nature, so to speak. Or when you're spending time with like a special person, or maybe your family. You know, in those moments when you're most happy, when you're most surrounded by the people that you care about, time does kind of freeze in that moment. But it's when you look back on those moments that at the time seem like there's no time, is when you realize how fast time flies. Time flies so fast. And I think in this COVID time that we're in right now, I think it's a great reminder sometimes to kind of pause for a second and just remember how cherished, you know, this moment is, whatever that moment is, wherever you are in your life. Here's another quote. I got two more I'm going to share. I think things just happen to people. That's healthier. That's healthier, I feel, than believing there's some grand scheme and that your story is already written in some book of life. Books get rewritten. I thought that was pretty strong. And here's the last one. Valuable people are undervalued. Think about that for a second. There are a lot of valuable people in this community that are incredibly undervalued because a lot of times people don't even know who they are. And this show's about bringing attention to all these incredible people who are trying to make a difference. Well, anyway, all three of those quotes are by Bob Saget, who passed away this week. I think his death is another vivid reminder that life is short. And, you know, I think a lot of people contemplate the reality that life is short. I think, unfortunately, too many people have to, especially during the pandemic. But if you read about Bob Saget and what's being said about him and what's being written about him, he had a lot of friends in his life. You know, he cared about the people who were around him. And there's just been this incredible outpouring around him. So as we reflect on this life, you know, whether it's his or ours, I think there's a lot to learn about, you know, how do we want our legacy to be? You know, do we? And in his particular case, I think he lived his life the way that he wanted to. And here's a last quote by Bob Saget. I think it's a terrific and important lesson. When you've seen a lot of bad stuff and just want to enjoy your life and be happy and have your kids happy and have your friends happy, you just have a value system where it raises the bar on what's important. You know, I think he believed that if we don't evolve in our lives, that we get stagnant, that life's about learning. And I'll often say on this show that the more we learn, the more we better learn how much we don't know. That this quest to learn and this quest to live by example, these are some of the key reasons why I started Coast Vue a couple of years ago. And I agree with Bob Saget when he talks a lot, you know, not long before he passed away, unfortunately, but he talked a lot about the negative world that we live in and that we need more positivity. We need less criticism. We need less politics and political division and more efforts to bring people together. And I talk about social media's role and all that too often. I was doing some reading about him this morning. I found this quote that he gave the Wyoming Tribute Eagle in Wyoming. And here's what he said. But my job is getting people to think and just resonate positiveness or love, if possible. Well, that's the goal of Coast Vue. That's what I want to do. And I appreciate Bob Saget raising the bar and leaving a positive legacy for us to lead. there's a lot of inspiration in his life. Just go take a look. And now let's shift gears. Let's move to my friend, the mayor of the city of Biloxi, Mayor FoFo Gilich. How you doing, FoFo?
I'm doing great, man. I just love that opening, as it applies to me, FoFo, and understanding so many things true. When you get immersed in things you love and what counts for you, and time does fly by. I'm a testimonial to that, especially when it comes to a lot of things, family and who you love, what counts to you for you, and where are we in this place in the universe right now? I mean, personally, with my granddaughter having overcome some things, starting in the middle of March the 20th, with some diagnoses that now 2 years later, almost instant, you can see it overnight. So I mean, really, Bob and some of his philosophy of life, man, really counts. And when you think about you and how it applies to your personal being and focus in life, I think it really hits the nail on the head. So, talking about just, I made me some notes as you're listening, but talking about how time flies, just with you, when you have these conversations with people who matter to you, it does fly by. You get immersed, and that's what makes things fly by. I'm looking back on, I'm not going to give you the state of the city or anything like that, but this is 7 years I'm in the middle of this stuff, and it seems like it was yesterday. Yeah, but hey, you love it, you breathe it, you think it, and it does fly by. Just like I said, these conversations when Cecile was talking about, doing, 50, 60 minutes with you, it goes by like nothing. So that's a tribute to both of us and the need to understand, the need to figure things out. I think that's what keeps us all young. So
in the pandemic, I think about a lot of this in the pandemic. How short life is. The reflection on that. You and I have lost too many people that we know as a result of the pandemic.
Right.
But life is short, and we still come in touch with get in touch with people who are so wound up and not taking a deep breath. I had a great conversation with a international pilot last week, and he said that one of his advices to people when they fly, but this I would say this is great advice just going through life, is that don't let other people's frustrations sort of tee you up. Too many times people are, they go to a situation and you don't know what they're going through. You don't know the challenges they're having in their life. And it all of a sudden comes to fruition. And too many people allow themselves to get kind of caught up in that. I had a great conversation with Wendy McDonald, who's chairman of the foundation in Hancock County. And she said that nurses tell her that the number one thing that the advice that nurses would give to the general public is, please understand what medical professionals are going through, and don't bring all this angst with you when you have to go seek medical care. Just be empathetic, understand that these are very trying times right now. But people move too fast, and they're, as I often say, busy, and they don't take a deep breath and realize that let's take a step back, take a deep breath, and enjoy the moment. People do have a tendency to get kind of wound up in situations like this, don't they?
Well, they do, but to me, and you know me, what me. I like a fast game. Okay, if you know what I mean. This is a fast game we live in, and it's the need to understand. Get you, if you had that drive to, hey, let me figure this out. Once I figure things out, then it's there. But once you figure it out, you got the process on to figure it out, and that's what gives me, I don't mind playing fast a lot of times. You know me, I think fast, and I talk fast too. So a lot of times too much, but that's okay. That's me. You don't see any frustration. You could put a blood pressure monitor on me, and you understand that's just the way it is. We talk about a lot of times about our training at the Savonia Lodge. You got to be able to pivot, and that's good. That's my deal, I think.
Well, I tell you, I've had long conversations with other elected officials about this. I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this in particular, but it's hard to be an elected official these days in a social media world. Now, Serena, your wife, is on social media. You're not. Okay. Your team is on social media, but you don't let the noise of social media get you down, do you?
No, I hear it, and I understand how people see some of these things, but, talking about, the different entities, you understand whose responsibility is to change a light. Might be MDOT or a boat that washes up on the beach, might be the Coast Guard, okay? And people, you hear, why aren't you doing this? Well, there's a lot of things to it. So I understand what they don't understand, and that's why I can kind of, roll with the punch or take the punch. But anyway, it's all part of the ball game. I'm not, bitching and moaning and groaning about the things, that I've chosen to do with, with the city of Biloxi and the place I love and the families and the people I love. So that's part of the ball game. I think.
And one last quick question: do they share with you negativity on social media?
What do you think?
I bet they try to, but I bet you say, okay, that's so be it.
They do, and they're not shy about it. And me, my voice goes up when I respond, and it's especially with the people you love, and something that touches a button, you naturally do that. But they know that in 10 seconds, I'm done, with my reaction. So. Well,
look, let's do this. We're going to continue the conversation with FoFo Gilich, the mayor of the city of Biloxi, after this, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the city these days. There's a lot to talk about. We'll see you after this break.
Subscribe for free to the Coast Vue podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever. I get knocked down, but I get up again. Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
When it comes to the outdoors, we are one. We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the great outdoors. So let's talk about it. SuperTalk Outdoors with Ricky Mathews, Mondays starting at noon, here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Presented by the Foundation Protecting Our Outdoors Heritage. Listen or watch the show anywhere you get SuperTalk Mississippi. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Whether you're brand new to the DIY craze or a seasoned veteran, the Handyman Show has something for you. Buddy Slowick shares tips and tricks on everything from odd jobs to complete build-outs, from small home repairs to serious construction. So no matter if you're at the master carpenter level or not quite sure how to use a level, the Handyman Show answers your questions with a healthy dose of humor and some great music too. Saturdays, 10 to noon on SuperTalk Mississippi and on SuperTalk TV. SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visit.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever. I get knocked down, but I get up again. Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. I enjoyed the first part of the conversation because, the reality is that there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to reflect about just in terms of the human condition these days with the pandemic and all. Okay, so we're going to shift gears now. The city's had nearly $1 million in development just in the past year. There's contemplation about the new Pops Ferry Road Bridge. We need to talk about Mardi Gras. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but let's start with COVID. The latest in COVID. What's your latest thinking as it relates to where we are, Mayor?
Well, in talking about, we just rescheduled a couple of events, mainly the State of the City, which was going to happen on January 18th, just to be cautious. And the State of the City can be moved a few weeks. I think we rescheduled that, but I really didn't want to do that. But I didn't want to have the ability to impact, in a super spreader kind of event. Didn't want to take that chance. But as far as things like Mardi Gras, hey, we're going to roll the dice, and hopefully this thing will blow through and not impact. You just never know what's going to happen. But every weekend, so they had this here and that here, and 10 people came up with COVID, and thankfully, especially friends that I've worked through this Omicron kind of thing, it's just more of a not as impactful as Delta and those things, but we're hopeful of that, and we're rolling the dice that in a couple of months we can be back to our way of life.
Well, I have the honor and pleasure of having Dr. Nicholas Conger, the infectious disease doctor from Memorial, on a regular basis. In fact, he's supposed to be on this week, and for the first time, actually had to cancel because they're busy. They're busier than normal. Now, the good news about Omicron, as you pointed out, is that while there are still people seeking medical attention, some people are being hospitalized, the severity is not as great as what we experienced with Delta. At least that continues to be the situation. And the other is that it's highly, highly contagious. So it's spreading like wildfire. And one of the things that he talked to us about is that as a pandemic runs its way through a population, we're going to see mutations along the way that hopefully, if it runs its course the way it normally does, that they may become more contagious, but they're going to become less severe. We hope that continues to be the case. And the other thing is that we're going to see spikes along the way as we see new variants come across. If you look at the current spike as it relates to Omicron, it's significant. I mean, it's really, really significant. No. And I'll say, too, that this is that spike is based on what's being reported. These are the official testing sites that are all over coastal Mississippi. And if you've been by one recently, the cars are forever long trying to get in to get tested. But so what you see is that, that's what's being reported from those testing sites. What you don't know is the number of people who are doing the home tests. A lot of these home tests are out there now. So I don't think it's a completely accurate reflection. In fact, I think that the spike is even greater than they say. But the good news about the spike is that it means that it will burn itself through faster. And this, coming back to your point, we get to the end of February. Hopefully, the Omicron will sort of have kind of run through the population for the most part, and that we will be finding once again, maybe for the second or third time, whatever our new normal is going to be. That's sort of your thinking as well, isn't it?
Exactly. Some semblance or some percentage of where we are, and we did take a lot of things for granted. Nobody, 10, 15 years ago, this threat, I think there was a little bit of coming out of Africa with some of those, really deadly. Of course, this was very deadly, but that was just, maybe so. But this is it. This is real, and we're in the middle of it. They can look back and the 1918 flu virus. It took them 2.5 years to get it done. And the Spanish flu, again, you and I talked about nothing Spanish about the Spanish flu, but and I just noticed today, I think that there are 20 million people in China that you can't even come out your house. So I didn't hear a lot about Europe and those kinds of things, but I know some of my relatives in Croatia, they've really taken it seriously and no chances, and so we just know what's happening pretty much in our neighborhood on a daily basis, and we watch it too. But I'm just say a prayer that in 3 or 4 months we'll be able to take exhale and say, okay, we're we're ready for the rest of the year.
Well, we're seeing good data come out of Australia specifically, and then, of course, a growing body of evidence just around the world that a combination of vaccinations and people who have gotten COVID, a combination of those things, helps ultimately fight this thing off. And it's amazing, though, if you think back, I mean, just a few weeks, and we just heard about the emergence of Omicron, and here it is, it's, burning through the population incredibly rapidly.
Right.
And, I think we've learned better how to live with it. I mean, you got to be smart, though. In the midst of that peak, at the very height of the peak, I'm not sure that's when you want to have a State of the State address, and that's why you guys changed it for sure. But you've been doing a lot of thinking about your State of the State address. In fact, I bet as a mayor, I don't know if this is the context you're bringing to all your thoughts, but I bet you're always thinking about, okay, when I give the State of the State, it might be 6 months from now, it might be 3 months from now, it might be a month from now. Right. When I give the State of the State address, what is the accountability that I'm bringing? What are the results that I'm bringing? What am I going to say? You're constantly in that frame of mind, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Like I said, I love every day I walk in this room and to see, hey, what is the hand I have to play today? But that just, like I said, it's almost like a dice game. Whether it's high stakes or low stakes, you're going to play the hand like it's best played. And but it's so much opportunity and so many ideas coming to this office, whether it's keeping the level of oxygen in the bay because shrimp processing down, or the ability to put $1 billion worth of projects together in a reasonable and fair way, or save some of the trees that are subject to expansion, like the straightening out of Duquesne Curve. But it's that keeps my no cholesterol in me because my blood pumps and it's good. It's good. So, but as far as State of the State, we actually, and I think it does work out well for us, because I'm hoping to say the stuff that we've been talking about since 2015. I'm in the 7th year, right? 7 is a pretty good number, and just like when you shoot dice. What's the most popular number of the 36? 7, right? You make it 5 and 2, 4, 3, or 6, 1. Okay, so 7's a good year. And 7. So we're going to show you pictures. I want to show you a little bit. I don't know if you can see. I didn't mean to do that, but you see, that's the boardwalk, right?
Hold it up higher. Yeah, right. Of course. Yes. Yeah.
And that's what we want to see. Those are good things. Hey, you can be walking on these things that we've been talking about for 5 years, or for 7 years. We're going to be opening Division Street, okay? And we're going to be doing some of the things. Or Bayview, where we used to see a lot of boat races. My hope, and by then, that's going to be done. The ribbon's cut. Okay, February 13th. We got probably, if you think about the Apollo program and the moon, and you just hear about the Webb telescope, okay? Well, we got a pretty proud, a Biloxi that we're really proud of, that on the February 13th, the founding day when D'Iberville discovered Biloxi, okay, we're going to have a 6'8", 6'6" statue of Fred Hayes going up at the lighthouse. So one explorer facing the other explorer, and it's going to look like on top of so that's going to happen. So these things that we've been kicking around talking about will be done. But there are other big things on the radar. It could be a couple of $1 billion and stuff that we got cooking, and if you don't throw things against the wall, none of them will stick. You don't have the opportunity for them to stick. We got a lot of things that we're exploring.
I'm aware of at least one, maybe two of the things that you're mentioning that are in that $1 billion range. And to my assessment of them is actually it's greater than maybe it might stick to the wall. There's some real possibilities of some of these projects that could be incredibly transformative to Biloxi, that continue to put Biloxi on the map as a destination for tourism and for leisure. And you got to look up forward 5-10 years and see, wow. I mean, there's some big stuff underway for the city, isn't there?
No question. Just in just thinking back a little bit, some of the things, the Josette's building, the old Borden's Milk building, there's going to be 19 apartments right there. We got other opportunities. You're talking about hundreds of homes, that are going up. We talk about on the peninsula, 19,000 jobs, only 9,000 places to live. Okay, right now, the national say, you know, this is what people are looking for, places to live in a quality of life spot that they can enjoy. A lot of people, the trend is work from home, right? So
yeah.
You do it in a place you love, and it's easy and you know, safe, friendly, and beautiful. Hey, we're on top of the heap looking for for people to move in.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that part, that Biloxi lost a considerable number of homes in Katrina, and a lot of those didn't come back. And what we're seeing is a lot of apartment building right now, one of the largest ever in the city's history, underway as we speak. Right. And then on top of that, you've got these discussions around mixed use, which is the point that you were just making. We'll center on that for just a second because some great opportunity there. And then we'll get the update on where they are with the Pops Ferry Road Bridge and other projects that are underway as well. We'll see you after this break with FoFo Gilich, the mayor of the city of Biloxi.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
When it comes to the outdoors, we are one. We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the great outdoors. So let's talk about it. Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Mathews. Mondays starting at noon. Here on Super Talk, Mississippi. Presented by the Foundation Protecting Our Outdoors Heritage. Listen or watch the show anywhere you get Super Talk Mississippi.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever. I get knocked down, but I get up again. Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
You know that nowadays, most people go online to look at a business before they spend their money. Are customers able to find you online? With the power of SuperTalk Mississippi Media Digital, you can reach potential customers and get more referral and repeat business. SuperTalk Mississippi Media Digital's highly trained and trusted staff is ready to work with you to help your business capitalize on the power of digital marketing. Call 601-991-2305 or go to stmmdigital.com to get started today.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On Super Talk, Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on Super Talk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices. Get the scoop on what happened in college football and what to expect in the NFL. Each Sunday on Sports Sunday with Michael Borky. Get the story behind the stats, 8 to 10 a.m. on SuperTalk Mississippi, supertalk.fm, and watch the show on supertalk.tv. SuperTalk Mississippi. We're more than just words. This is where the story of your state is told. Proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
The Lars Larson Show.
On the left, they say that this president has divided America. No, the opposition, the resistance to Donald Trump is what has divided America. Because Donald Trump said he would work with both sides, and he's shown that he would. But the Democrats, because they want to take a position that everything about Donald Trump is wrong, to a large extent, they have refused to work with him on anything.
The Lars Larson Show, weeknights at 6 on SuperTalk Mississippi. Gardening is one of the most popular hobbies in America, with the average gardener spending 5 hours a week in the garden. In Mississippi, keeping a healthy, beautiful garden is practically an obsession. But if you have questions about gardening, there's no better person to answer them than the garden mama, Nellie Neal. So whether it's gardening basics or troubles for the more experienced gardeners out there, The Garden Mama has the answers for you. Saturday morning starting at 8 on SuperTalk Mississippi and SuperTalk TV.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. We have Mayor FoFo Gilich of the city of Biloxi. Hey, when we went to break, we were beginning to talk a little bit about, he mentioned that 19 additional units on top of the Josette's building. When you think about on top of, so something's going down at the ground level. So that's what we refer to as a mixed use. There could be some kind of commercial entity, could be a restaurant, could be a bar, it could be some kind of professional office. It could be a bunch of different things. But then you have some kind of living capabilities up above. We see this sort of emergence of mixed use all across coastal Mississippi. When you think about the cities that make up coastal Mississippi, each has their own unique existence, their own sense of place, and people aspire to go to those places. I mean, they want to live in those places. If you think about it, and I've said this a lot on this show before, but I think it helps to repeat it, that the old industrial model was to go out and try to get a big plant or a big headquarters or whatever and have them relocate there. And it could be thousands of jobs involved in that. And certainly the state is still very much engaged in those kinds of activities. But there was sort of a new age to economic development that is around what we call the new economy, which is that people can almost live, work, or play anywhere and work for a company that actually is headquartered in New York or California or Seattle. Yep. And so what's happening now is that you're seeing an incredible emergence of an entire labor force. We'll never be back to where we were before the pandemic. There's always going to be some type, for most major companies, some type of quasi work situation where they do some meetings in office, but they do a lot of stuff remotely. Remote is going to be the name of the game going forward. So what remote work and the emergence of, I would say emergence of remote was actually happening before Hurricane Katrina, before the pandemic. But the fact is that that's been sped up. So what disasters do is they speed up trends that were there before the trend started. So the pandemic happens, remote work was a big deal. It's even bigger deal today. So what you're seeing is that people are choosing now the communities they want to live in, and the young people who are part of what they call the creative class. This could be architects, could be planners, it could be creative artists, it could be graphic artists, it could be a wide number of people. Right. They're picking communities they want to live, work, and play in, and they're working and they're living there. And they may actually work for a company, like I said, in Texas or California. This is a big deal. The other thing that's been happening is that people for many, many years wanted to go live out in the country. Well, what we're seeing now is that people are wanting to come back. They're wanting to move back and get closer to where they work. And this is certainly true of the younger people who are coming into the workforce these days. And that is why across coastal Mississippi, you're seeing a lot of conversations about mixed use. Mixed use is sort of the name of the game today. As it relates to Biloxi, and you heard what I just said, I mean, this creates an enormous opportunity for the city of Biloxi, doesn't it, FoFo?
It does. It does. And we're positioned, as you mentioned, to plan it more so than a lot of other cities. We want this action that people will enjoy living around to be not, white knuckle where you can't find a parking place or just too hard to get to, or you just can't enjoy coming out on your balcony and having a good time. We've seen a little bit of that in some of the things we did at the Town Green with the Bucktown All-Stars and some of these other things. People love being around that action. And if you've got it, the venue planned the right way, then it's a winner. We got so many things. We've got a cool, with all kinds of history. Back from 1941, that strip, that Howard Avenue, with that that brick dance floor, so to speak, is where it is. And then you couple it with just a block. You can walk to the beach, you can walk to a casino, you can see world class, a lot of things. So I mean, the orbit is proper for the growth that I think we're planning on seeing. With the Bark building, ground zero, okay? Ground zero is coming up in just a few short weeks. That's only going to add to the potential. But what I'm trying to get across is, hey, we're planning on some of the not mistakes, but just things happen. You talked about a little bit. Things do happen. Well, things happen, but you can kind of get positioned so when it does happen, you got the solution. Yeah. I mean, if that makes sense to that's my edge. I think we have with that pretty concise channel where things are going to be happening. Whether it's it's a non-casino but tourism. People want to see that, okay? And when you're playing these, the national trend, you look at working from home, working remote, but people are not buying houses. The preference is to rent a place. And that gives you flexibility, and with the enormous challenges of buying things, and it's beyond me on some of the cost of materials and houses. It blows you away. But you can say, okay, hey, you can get in this for $2,400 a month, or $1,500 a month. Hey, that's easy. You know what you're gonna have to do, and you plan your life accordingly. And I think that's the thing that we've seen. In talking to people who are developing, and they see the same numbers, they see the same metrics as far as borrowing money and ROI, return on the investment, or so they, I'm comfortable that we're pushing in the right direction for the Biloxi that we all love and have grown up in. Some of us ain't grown up yet, but that's okay.
But hey, what you've seen though in Biloxi, just generally beyond just mixed use, because that's an important conversation about how downtown becomes, viable and life's there again, and all the opportunities there to increase the number of people there. But just in general, the number of future households that are going to be opening up in the city of Biloxi, both rental and single family housing. It's exciting to see that taking off. It's taken some time, actually, to be honest with you, thinking back 16 years to Katrina, but it's happening now in the city, isn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Arbor and some of these other folks have been throwing, a couple of hundred apartments, but you saw right after Katrina, boom, how many thousands of apartments that were moved in Jackson County, into D'Iberville or Northern. But now you can see that, there's a little bit of age on them now, but hey, boy, we want to move back this way, back to the epicenter. And I think that's a trend. So there are new opportunities for, and it's reflective of the people who've come into this office. That's what we want to do. Well, we're open. This Biloxi wasn't built on you can't do this. It's how can I help you? And that's our philosophy. And that's what built us. From the beginning, and that's what we're gonna come back to the summit by that attitude, I hope.
Hey, so look, we're gonna shift gears. I want to kind of get your latest thinking on the flood insurance situation. I've got Frank Bordeaux and Ashley Edwards on next Monday, and we're going to break it all down. Actually, we're going to spend an entire hour going back to some of the challenges after Hurricane Katrina And then when the reauthorization happened, and essentially FEMA's program for insurance, flood insurance, in case people aren't paying attention to it, has been supplemented by the federal government for all of these years. And for many, 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 many years, there's been this conversation in the United States about how to make the FEMA flood insurance program essentially actuarially sound. Essentially, what that means is that it can pay for itself by virtue of the payments that people have to make to be a part of the program. There's a new program. It's been talked about for some time, but now it's kind of hitting the forefront as we speak of 2.0, which is essentially an effort over the next several years to make the flood insurance program more financially viable. It really penalizes communities like ours that are along and near water. What's your current thinking about that?
Well, I think Frank's, has been on top of this thing for years. I know we've gone to Washington a couple of times just looking at FEMA mapping and some of those things, but we are penalized. I say penalized because I think it needs to be more of a disaster kind of component than just flood. And now, when you look at these maps and so forth, there's been some disasters in California with, mudslides and water slides. I think it all needs to be wrapped together to spread, the liability. It's not just, a coastal and who's got the strongest representation in Congress. Come on, man. It is, with earthquakes, with fires, with these mudslides as a result of some of the heavy duty weather we've been seeing. Hey, and snow and those kinds of things. It needs to be spread, and I think without just picking on a couple of miles off of wherever coastline we have, that seems to me a fairer solution. Look at disaster, not just don't say flood. It's disaster. Spread that across 200 million people, and it makes a little bit easier. And FEMA's been pretty great as far as what they do and the amount of money they throw, but it's part of the deal. You can't be there forever, so there's got to be some solution that at least makes sense. But it'll be
FoFo, when you look at the number of people who live near a coastline, not just necessarily own it, but near a coastline. I'm talking about as a percentage of the total population of America. It's a huge number. And I think, the thing that I've editorialized a lot about after Hurricane Katrina was because the highest storm surge in recorded history happened to come here, the ABFE requirements, in other words, the base flood elevation requirement for coastal Mississippi is higher than most other communities, only because we got hit. Now, if they'd have gotten hit by Katrina, theirs would be high also. But the point is, we end up getting unnaturally hit because a larger amount of our property, because of Katrina, is within flood zones today, and so therefore we understand who needs to get it and who doesn't need to get it and all that. I get all that, but that was a disaster that caused that. And your point is well taken. When we come back on the other side, we'll get the latest on the Pops Ferry Road Bridge and find out what else might be on the mayor's mind. See you after this.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
You know that nowadays, most people go online to look at a business before they spend their money. Are customers able to find you online? With the power of SuperTalk Mississippi Media Digital, you can reach potential customers and get more referral and repeat business. SuperTalk Mississippi Media Digital's highly trained and trusted staff is ready to work with you to help your business capitalize on the power of digital marketing. Call 601-991-2305 or go to stmmdigital.com to get started today. Whether you're brand new to the DIY craze or a seasoned veteran, the Handyman Show has something for you. Buddy Slowick shares tips and tricks on everything from odd jobs to complete build-outs, from small home repairs to serious construction. So no matter if you're at the master carpenter level or not quite sure how to use a level, the Handyman Show answers your questions with a healthy dose of humor and some great music too. Saturdays, 10 to noon on SuperTalk Mississippi and on SuperTalk TV.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
When it comes to the outdoors, we are one. We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the great outdoors. So let's talk about it. Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Mathews. Mondays starting at noon. Here on Super Talk Mississippi. Presented by the Foundation Protecting Our Outdoors Heritage. Listen or watch the show anywhere you get Super Talk Mississippi. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have Mayor FoFo Gilich of the city of Biloxi. And when we went to break, we were talking about big price increases coming with the flood insurance program because FEMA's working in this 2.0 process that they're going through to make the flood insurance program more financially viable. But as the mayor pointed out, this should be something that the entire country shares in some sort of disaster response. That we've got work to do as a federal government, and we can't force only those who live along the waterways of America to be the ones to bear the brunt. That's what's happening currently. And if you haven't gotten or haven't looked into what if you get flood insurance, if you haven't looked at what your impact's going to be, it's going to be 18% this year, then another 18%, and so on. There are a lot of websites you can go to. Just look at the FEMA mapping or do FEMA flood insurance program. You'll find your way. Just do some Googling, and you'll start to understand what the impact's going to be on you. It could be devastating for coastal Mississippi. So what we've really got to do is find another way. And we're probably, well, I don't say probably, we're not the only community in America that's going to be screaming as a result of this getting implemented now, but it's going to impact coastal Mississippians in a big way. And as I mentioned, Ashley Edwards from the Business Council and Frank Bordeaux is in the insurance business, and I will be having a conversation about this next Monday. We're going to talk about the whole history from beginning to end so you can begin to understand a little bit more depth behind what's up here and what some of the options might be for addressing what are going to be some very high costs passed along to those of us who have flood insurance. Okay. With that said, coming back to you, Mayor, you and I had a whole show where we talked about the Pops Ferry Road Bridge and the proposal that United Bridge Partners has out there to almost entirely finance this project over a number of years, and essentially what would be a turnkey operation for the city using a toll. What's the latest on all that? Well,
the latest is, with the opportunity in the infrastructure bridge, let me kind of put it in perspective. Everybody talks about, you talking about the chatter on social media and so forth. Well, what about this, this $1 trillion infrastructure? Well, Mississippi's getting $3.3 billion coming, and pushed down to MDOT. And how come we can't use this? Well, reality is, and a couple of reasons why we even asked a study to be made by and we hadn't signed anything other than, hey, you bring us the possibilities. They came up and said, look, we'll develop a possibility where you can be driving on this thing in 4 years. Okay, So that's hey, just to look at that opportunity. What is it going to now? The second part of the chatter is, okay, what about this $3.3 billion that Mississippi is getting allocated of the $1.2 trillion? Of that $3.3 billion coming to Mississippi, $225 million of that is for bridges for the whole state of Mississippi. So we're talking about compounding thing, $180 million right now. When we started talking about this in 2015, it was like $80 million for that bridge, and another $80 million for their connection of I-10 to around that spot. So you can see what the steps it has taken. So bottom line, what chances do you think we have of getting $100 million or $80 million out of that 225 when that's allocated for the whole state? So we're kind of boxed in. Okay, there's a way you can do it fast, or there's a way you can try to get the funds, but it's going to take 15 years, even if we were confident of getting, the permits, the money when it begins. So it's not grim, it's just a reality. Okay, I don't know, the other day when it got cold, the first time it got cold, and the bridge kind of comes in and out, and sometimes it doesn't fit because it's steel and it doesn't fit, and there's a guy with a big crowbar trying to latch it in. Well, and I had 3 people on boats call me, and they're sitting in the water trying to get through the bridge. So, my point of the whole conversation is, this is not just a Biloxi concern. This is a regional concern. Everybody who has industry on that seaway needs that bridge to open and close, successfully. Meantime, between failures, it's getting, less. So it's failing more than you know. But anyway, basically, it's just, what can you live by? Hey, I could solve a problem, or we could weld that thing shut, but no industry would come through there. And so these are the facts, just
one of the things that you and I talked about in the last meeting, and I think that really kind of resonated with me in a big way. I still am torn about the toll, and I'm going to come down to what I think is really the question here, and I'll come back to that in a second. But the thing that you pointed out, and you sort of leaned on it just then, welding it shut, and to see if industry along the seaway would appreciate that or not, that this bridge is a city bridge. It's not a state bridge, or certainly not a federal bridge.
Right.
So in terms of priorities, you think about the federal government's got its requirements and the state's got things that it's responsible for. I mean, by the time it gets to the city level, especially on something like a bridge, the city's eating scraps. I mean, let's face it. Let me tell you those numbers again. You mentioned them, but $3.3 billion is going to be brought back to Mississippi. Only $225 million is going to be for bridge replacement and repairs. You think about the needs Mississippi has just for replacement and repairs, not to mention new bridges that are needed, just replacement and repairs. And this bridge being 170 to 180 million, I mean, there's no way we're going to get any portion of that from just 225 million, right, because it's a city bridge. The state's already going to have its priorities at the state level. So that really speaks. Now, people say, well, is there any other money? Well, there actually is at the federal level. But you'll be intrigued by how little the numbers actually are. $12.5 billion for what they call a bridge investment program. These are for economically significant bridges. $12.5 billion for the entire United States. We can compete for that. You think we got a chance for that on the city level? No, we don't. And then there's one other bucket of money. It's $16 billion for what they call national funding for major projects. Again, this would never be referred to as a national major project. While the bridge issue is, I hate that you have to deal with that issue, FoFo, because you got so many other things that are great for the city and positive for the city. But anyway, I'll give you the last word.
Well, it's part of the challenge of leaving this beautiful, wonderful town. And, it's something we got to handle. And it's not going to go away. It's been there forever. And as far as I can remember, and so we just have to hammer out a way that's reasonable, a reasonable response to the problem it is. And we'll try to nail it down every point of the way.
It's been great catching up with you, my friend, and we'll see you again really, really soon.
All right, brother.
This has been Mayor FoFo Gilich, and we'll see you tomorrow.